All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT exam practice series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Marvin says, time to go inside to his daughter, who says, I don't want to go inside. Marvin ignores this and says, tell me you want a few more minutes. And his daughter says, I need more minutes. Marvin saying, tell me you want a few more minutes could best be described as a what? Now we have a antecedent behavior consequence question, an ABC question. And when you're dealing with any sort of behavioral question, you always want to first identify where the antecedents and where the consequences are, because that's going to tell you what you need to know about the different aspects of the environment given the situation. In this case, we are looking at Marvin saying, tell me you want a few more minutes. So we need to understand in what context is tell me you want a few more minutes happening. So we know Marvin initially says, time to go inside. His daughter says, I don't want to go inside. Marvin ignores this. That's our first ABC. The antecedent, time to go inside. The behavior, I don't want to. The consequence, Marvin ignores. So once we have our first ABC, we've now moved into another contingency, right? Because Marvin then says, tell me you want a few more minutes. And that's what we're looking at. So tell me you want a few more minutes is our antecedent to the daughter saying, I need more minutes. In other words, we're looking at some sort of discriminative stimulus. And how do we know that? Well, we know it's not a prompt because the prompt is going to follow the SD, and we only have an SD. We have to tell me you want a few more minutes. We know it's not a consequence because the consequence of the first ABC was Marvin ignoring it. And then Marvin introduced a new SD, which was tell me you want a few more minutes. So we know it's an antecedent and not a consequence. So if we look at A, prompt, we've ruled out prompt because the prompt follows the SD. We don't have any prompts here. Don't confuse Marvin saying, tell me you want a few more minutes as a prompt, because it's a completely different antecedent behavior consequence contingency, because the first one was already closed. When Marvin ignored the first behavior, that was our first ABC. Second one is tell me you want a few more minutes. The behavior is I need more minutes, and then whatever the consequence is. So tell me you want a few more minutes acts as the SD for his daughter saying, I need more minutes. We know it's not a consequence because it was an antecedent, and it's not a motivating operation because it didn't alter the value of anything. Marvin simply gave the SD, tell me you want a few more minutes, to which his daughter responded, I need more minutes. In every behavior question, always identify your antecedents, always identify your consequences. Lauren is tired of having to pick up after his children once they are done playing in their playroom. He wants to teach them a new behavior to replace the behavior of leaving a mess following playtime. What differential reinforcement procedure should Lauren avoid? This is actually a pretty straightforward question. We're looking at differential reinforcement, where we are reinforcing certain behaviors, putting other behaviors on extinction. And as a behavior technician, as an RBT, you're going to want to know three main types of differential reinforcement. You're going to want to know the alternative intervention, which is the DRA, the incompatible, which is the DRI, and the other, which is the DRO. In Lauren's case, we know he wants to teach them a new behavior to replace the old behavior. So he wants to teach a replacement behavior. Now, of those three differential reinforcement types, which one of those does not teach a replacement? Is it A, a differential reinforcement of alternative behavior? No, a DRA teaches an alternative behavior. By definition, it's going to teach a replacement. Is it DRI, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors? Again, no. A DRI is just like a DRA, except the replacement behavior has to be incompatible with the old behavior. So what we have left is our DRO, differential reinforcement of other behavior. And with the DRO, we're not teaching a replacement. We're simply reinforcing in the absence of the old behavior. And so if Lauren wants to teach a new replacement behavior, he's going to want to avoid A DRO, because a DRO is not going to teach a replacement. It's only going to reinforce for a behavior not happening. Amelia's aunt sets up a water slide outside for Amelia to play with during the day. Once the slide is complete, Amelia's aunt says, "Okay, let's slide," and demonstrates how to use the slide. Amelia then follows her down the slide. What type of prompt did the aunt use? All right, this is a good question to complement that first question we looked at. Again, we're looking at ABCs, we're looking at behavior. This time we want to know what type of prompt the aunt used. So let's try to find our prompt. We know Amelia's aunt set up the water slide for Amelia to play with. Once the slide was done, Amelia's aunt said, "Okay, let's slide," which is our SD, and then demonstrated how to use the slide. That is the prompt. Why is that the prompt? Because the SD is "Okay, let's slide." The response is Amelia followed her down the slide. Demonstrating how to use the slide came in between our SD and our response. And so if Amelia's aunt demonstrated how to use the slide as the prompt, what type of prompt is that? A partial physical. Well, with any sort of physical prompt, there has to be some sort of physical contact between the teacher and the learner. Amelia's aunt did not physically prompt Amelia. What about gestural? A gestural prompt is a slight or small motor movement indicating what needs to be done. The difference between a modeling prompt, C, which this is, and a gestural prompt is with the modeling prompt, you're demonstrating what you want to see. You're actually showing the learner what it is you want to see done. You're doing the whole behavior. A gestural is just like a point or a subtle motion towards what you want. A modeling prompt is you're actually doing what you want to see the learner do, which is what the aunt is doing. She's demonstrating how to use the slide. And of course, it's not a verbal prompt because the aunt did not verbally prompt Amelia. The aunt demonstrated or modeled how to use the slide. So the type of prompt that was used by the aunt is modeling prompts. Now, again, pretty straightforward question. The hardest part about the behavior questions is getting used to identifying antecedents and consequences and behaviors. That's why when you're studying, you should spend a lot of time understanding, okay, this is my SD, this is my prompt, this is my consequence, this is my response. And once you get a hang of that, consequence questions, reinforcement questions, antecedent questions, those are going to become much, much easier because it's going to become second nature to identify the different parts of that ABC contingency. Mail is delivered to specific addresses according to what is written on the package or envelope. If the mail carrier wants to effectively deliver the mail, then what skill do they need to choose the right house? Now, we're looking at the mail carrier's ability to do what? Well, they want to deliver mail, but more specifically, they want to choose the right house. And that's our dead giveaway. They're going to choose houses based on addresses. And so each house is going to have a different address. So how is that mail carrier going to be able to determine which house is which address so that they're not going and delivering mail to the wrong place? What skill do they need? Do they need A, stimulus discrimination? Of course. This is exactly what we're doing here. We're discriminating between different stimuli. In this case, the stimuli are the different houses, the different addresses. If the mail carrier can't discriminate between stimuli, such as different addresses and different houses, they're not going to be able to deliver the mail effectively. Now, what about response differentiation? With response differentiation, we're not looking so much at the stimuli, but the responses themselves. Now, the mail carrier may need to engage in different responses depending on the house, but we're specifically asking about choosing the right house, which are the stimuli. We're not talking about the carrier engaging in different behaviors. We need the carrier to be able to discriminate between the houses. Response differentiation, we're talking specifically about differentiating between responses. So understand the difference. Stimulus discrimination is like choosing between red and blue. Response differentiation is pointing at blue versus grabbing blue. Notice one is about the stimuli, one is about the responses. What about generalization? Generalization is going to help, obviously, in different areas, but we're looking for the best answer. And generalization alone is not going to help the mail carrier discriminate between houses. They have to have stimulus discrimination. And then prompting. Prompting is not relevant here. We're not worried about the prompting. The carrier does not need to have prompting. That answer choice doesn't make sense. And it's a good example of why fluency is important. If you're fluent, answer choices that make no sense, like prompting, are going to jump out to you and you can quickly eliminate them. And so, what the mail carrier needs to do is have stimulus discrimination to tell the difference between these houses. There are several types of verbal behavior that you will become familiar with as a technician. What type of verbal behavior is most related to labeling items? All right, so we're looking at the different types of verbal behavior. And when we talk about type of verbal behavior, you as a technician don't need to know the ins and outs of these verbal behaviors. And so the reason I'm presenting this question is more of a teaching moment because you're going to hear the word manned a lot, the word tact a lot, the word introverbal a lot, and the word echoic a lot. You might even read them on your exam. These are just common words we use in practice. And so the more familiar you are with just the practice as a whole, the better off you're going to be. And so if you've never heard these words, don't panic. It's just a teaching question. And so if we're talking about verbal behavior related to labeling items, what are we talking about? Well, if you look at a mand is a request. That's like asking somebody to do something or asking for something. A tact is a label. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about tacts. An interverbal is simply conversation or answering questions. And then echoics are copying whatever is said. And so the type of behavior related to labeling is going to be a tact. Again, this is just a teaching question, just to kind of expand your knowledge of ABA. Is this on the task list? No, but you want to be familiar with these words. And so just take this as a teaching question and nothing more. Again, a mand is a request, tacts are labels, interverbals are conversation and questions, and echoics are copying what is said. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Make sure you subscribe. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.